Hey there, Jesse Moore, Pickett Street Properties.
Dennis Pierce, Pickett Street.
One of the things that we've talked about before is, one of our more popular videos is regarding Bank of America and a trustee called Recon Trust, which if you haven't seen that, you'll want to look that up. It's an interesting take on the foreclosure process in Washington State and what and one practice that Bank of America has had to change. So anyway, Dennis and I were just talking about how what the foreclosure market looks like right now. And the interesting thing is that foreclosure inventory, the amount of homes that we see going to auction is super low right now. In fact, it used to be, 18 months ago, 200 properties in Snohomish County.
Between King and Snohomish, there could be as many as between 400 and 500 properties on a given week. And now we're seeing lists that coming back 30 to 40 properties that maybe make it all the way through the process.
Yeah, in Snohomish County, we're down to about 30 to 40 properties. And so we were just talking about that and how that affects the short sale process. And there's a few recent developments that could change the amount of foreclosures that we see in our marketplace. And why we care about this as short sale listing agents is that we're racing against the clock sometimes, most of the time.
Always. We're always dealing with the time frame around the notice of default, and if we have hit that threshold, that's going to affect what happens, everything that happens afterward.
Right. So one effective strategy, one thing you definitely have to be aware of as a short sale listing agent is, does that property have a foreclosure date? And if so, how do you get that foreclosure date postponed? And so one of the things that we want to talk about is that there's some people that have been in default for a long time.
Yeah.
And
very, very long time.
And they have seen their foreclosure date pushed out several times. And the reality is that there's some recent developments that may mean that those postponements are less likely.
The time is finally kind of drawing to a close there on those.
And so let's talk about two things. One is that Bank of America Recon Trust problem. And to summarize, the trustee that forecloses on a property is supposed to be an independent third party. Bank of America used a company called Recon Trust. Recon Trust, that company they actually owned.
Yeah, so having your subsidiary do it doesn't really make it arm's length.
Yeah, so Attorney General Rob McKenna, Attorney General for the state of Washington, actually sued Recon Trust on that and a few other issues. And that we actually saw just a whole onslaught of postponements.
Right.
For Bank of America was not foreclosing on properties because they had to restart that trustee sale process with a different trustee. And now it's been long enough where we're seeing those now coming back to the auction block.
Right.
And I can anticipate that we'll see more and more of those as we move forward in the first quarter, second quarter of this year.
Right, and so that lawsuit combined with the combined lawsuit with the state attorneys general of, 27 some odd states, I believe it was?
There's at least 13 states that I'm aware of, but yeah.
The robo-signing lawsuit
that one was bigger.
Yeah, that was pretty dramatic in the impact that it had on foreclosures nationwide as well as locally.
Yeah, and so what Dennis is referring to is there was a lawsuit with many of the states. Actually, I think most of the states in the union were involved in this lawsuit, and it was against the bigger banks, Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, just to name a few of them. And it's about this robo-signing stuff that we won't get into now, but essentially the process used to
they tried to automate foreclosure.
They tried to automate the closing process on a bunch of loans,
right.
And so it turned out that a lot of homes that were in default or being foreclosed on may not have ever been initiated properly,
right.
And because of that, it was causing foreclosure headaches for them. Well, the banks have now there's a settlement in that case, and because of that settlement, we can actually expect a few more foreclosures to hit the auction block just because they may have been held up because of this lawsuit. And so basically, if you are thinking that you've talked to people and it took them 4 years to get foreclosed on or 3 years, which is not that uncommon, we do hear that.
Oh, yeah.
I just think, in Washington State, it's not that easy to foreclose on someone quickly anyway. And so there certainly is a method to extending your foreclosure time frame. But the reality is that we don't want you to be lulled into a false sense of security, because the reality is it's going to get easier, a little bit easier, to foreclose on a home than it has been in the last 6 months. And so don't think that you have all the time in the world. You really need to. If you want to get involved in the short sale process, please don't delay. Get started on that right away.
Yeah, the banks are definitely starting to put the pieces together now so they can get the process back in line, as opposed to kind of the fractured system they've had in place before. And so we expect that that will become more streamlined and that there will be higher volumes of foreclosures in the not too distant future.
So don't delay. If you're considering a short sale, please contact someone right away. All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.